This is Transfer Talk. Benjamin Sesko is dominating the agenda as Newcastle United up their bid for the striker. But will Manchester United make a move to sign him? Thoughts of Mark McAdam on the way this hour. Now, Chelsea have spent big already this month and it looks like they're not done yet. Could we see Alejandro Garnacho make the move to the capital? And David Moyes has made it clear he needs signings before the season starts. News on their attempt for Keenan Dewsbury Hall and Tyler Dibbling. We'll be getting the fans' view later this hour as well. Right, it is all happening because during that break, we got loads of breaking news, right? The first of 3 transfer updates coming right now because Everton, remember, they're after Tyler Dibbling from Southampton. There's an update right now. Everton, we're told, are reluctant to meet the £45 million plus valuation of Dibbling. Southampton have told Everton they want a guaranteed £45 million plus what we describe as strong bonuses on top to sell the winger to anyone. It's Everton at the moment who are in for him. Now, this was after they rejected Everton's third bid, which was around £43 million. Now, Everton aren't interested in just Dibbling in terms of wingers. David Moyes has said they need central midfielders and wingers. They're also interested in Malik Fofana of Lyon, Jack Grealish at Manchester City and Takefusa Kubo, who is at Real Sociedad, David Moyes' old side, of course. Everton also want central midfielders, like we said. They've agreed £29 million deal for Keenan Dewsbury Hall and they're interested in Douglas Luiz and Wilfred Ndidi. But the news there is that they're reluctant to make an offer for Tyler Dibbling of what Southampton want. More on that to come, definitely. And we'll talk to Mark about that one as well. The second bit of breaking news, we've been talking about Chuba Akpom a lot over the last 48 hours, and there's been another twist because Birmingham City has submitted a bid to buy him as they attempt to hijack his move from Ipswich Town. But remember, you'll see the irony, Ipswich hijacked Birmingham's move for Akpom in the first place. Birmingham are trying to get them back. It's understood Ajax are considering this new offer. The clubs have been in discussions over a permanent deal in the region of £6 million. He's already completed his medical at Ipswich, which is a loan deal, which will be made permanent if they get back up to the Premier League. So the 29-year-old striker is in Ipswich right now, but Birmingham had agreed a similar deal before Ipswich came in, but now they're hoping to convince Ajax and the player for a permanent move right now. So no more loan to buy, a permanent one. Right, I said there was 3 bits of breaking news.
Go on, the other Tom, one, keep going, mate.
We've only got an hour. Southampton have accepted United have accepted a significant bid for the transfer of centre-back Anel Ahmedosic. Very, very good centre-back Ahmedosic. Remember, because Sheffield United didn't get promoted, that means that they may have to sell him. The former Bosnian international leaves with immediate effect. He's joining the Dutch side Feyenoord. So Feyenoord in for Anel Ahmedosic. Right. We are going to talk about some of that with Mark in a moment. But remember, we started by saying we're going to talk about Benjamin Sesko. Let's get to that right now. This story is turning out to be a really big one. Newcastle United are in for him. Manchester United might come in for him. Let's get to Newcastle's training ground. And Keith Downey is there for a story. We had to make you wait there, Keith. There's just a lot going on right now, and you understand that more than most people, right? Things have moved on significantly with Sesko in the last 24 hours. Bring it up to speed.
Yeah, we told you on Saturday, Tom, that Newcastle had made that first formal bid for Benjamin Sesko. It essentially was the £70 million that Leipzig are looking for, but it was £65 million plus £5 million in add-ons. What Leipzig said was, look, it does essentially meet their valuation, but they'd like to renegotiate the structure and the payment terms over that deal. So as a result of that, Newcastle then went back in last night with another offer, so to speak, again £70 million, but up front plus some potential add-ons as well. So we're yet to hear back from RB Leipzig as to whether they will accept that offer, but it does meet their valuation in terms of the figure, and Newcastle have also had some encouragement over the last 24 hours that Sesko would be open to the move. We've known for a while that he's open to both Newcastle United and Manchester United. One source actually told us last week that he favoured a move to Manchester United, but as it stands, Newcastle's offer for Sesko is the only offer that is on the table. And I think as far as Newcastle are concerned, they can't wait around forever, because if Alexander Isak is to be allowed to go, they want to ensure that they have a replacement in first. So yeah, they've had that encouragement that Sesko would be keen on a move to Newcastle United, coupled with that new bid. As I say, £70 million plus some add-ons. It feels as though this transfer is beginning to move, and I think the next 24 to 48 hours could be telling.
Well, it is interesting because we have been expecting Manchester United to come in for him as well, but like you say, Newcastle's bid's the only one at the table right now. How worried are Newcastle that Manchester United will come in eventually?
Look, I think there's an internal worry, yes, because we keep getting told, the noises are that Manchester United are there, but they're not there in terms of a formal offer. It's only Newcastle who at this stage have made an offer for Benjamin Sesko and said, look, we want to sign you. I think there is an internal concern that perhaps the player does favour Manchester United, but of course those positive noises came out last night that he is open to a move to Newcastle United and that he is keen to discuss that and consider that. So it feels like we are getting to an end point. I think there's also just an internal concern as well that with him saying that he would be keen for a move to Newcastle United, is that just a smoke out interest from Manchester United, or is that real? And I think, taken on face value, I think Newcastle trust that it is real, and that is why they've gone in with that newly structured offer for him last night. As I say, the numbers add up to what RB Leipzig are looking for, and the decision, I would suggest, now rests with the player. But as it stands, as I've touched on there, Tom, he only has one club to choose from at the moment, because Manchester United are yet to formalise their own offer. Now, why is that? Is it because they're trying to get players out the door first? Are they trying to work themselves around PSR? Are they just playing the waiting game? It feels like there's a number of games being played here, but Newcastle clearly stating their intent with that new bid last night. And as I say, it feels like we're getting to the crunch point in this transfer.
Yeah, it does appear so. Remember, all of this is going on while the Alexander Isak situation is going on too. Where is he now, do you know, and when will he rejoin the first team?
He's in the building behind me, Tom, right now, recovering from that minor thigh injury that he reported just under 2 weeks ago when he failed to travel to Asia for Newcastle's pre-season tour, and instead went on a self-imposed training camp to Spain, to the Real Sociedad training camp, which of course which of course was lying empty at the time. So he was back in yesterday on his own, receiving some treatment. He's back in again today. You would expect he's going to meet with manager Eddie Howe, because Eddie Howe came out, of course, when he was over in South Korea and said he learnt that Isak had travelled to Real Sociedad to recuperate and train. He found that out through the media. So the optics of the whole thing has not been good. It feels like talks definitely have to take place in the next couple of days, if not today, between Isak and his manager. Of course, remember, Newcastle only returned from South Korea just over 24 hours ago. So the players were given off yesterday, and today, as I understand it, it's just Isak who's going through his recovery, a little bit of individual training, probably some gym work himself as well. So he spent over a week over in Spain, flew back in on Saturday night and came back in here yesterday morning. So this is day 2 now of his return to Newcastle United, and as I say, talks will take place. Now, Isak, as we know, is keen on a move to Liverpool, and as we know, Liverpool are very keen on him. They had that bid last Friday turned down by Newcastle, £110 million plus add-ons. But my understanding is that if Newcastle managed to sign Benjamin Sesko, and as we've been saying there, that move is advanced, then Isak will potentially be allowed to leave if Liverpool come up with an offer that Newcastle deemed to be fair. So they had the 110 plus add-ons turned down. My suggestion would be they're going to have to add on a little bit more to that to get a deal done. Isak is agitating to leave, as we know, but Newcastle will not let him leave until they've got what they believe a ready-made replacement in. Benjamin Sesko is that man, but as yet they've yet to get that deal over the line.
Keith, thank you. Right, Mark, we've been doing the show since 2019. I can't remember 3 bits of breaking news in one advert breaking. I've never been good enough to deal with that. Right, let's go to, there's a lot to talk about. Let's just stick with Isak, because that's what we were talking about last there with Keith, because it's all to do with this Benjamin Sesko deal. But with Isak, it seems like his relationship with Eddie Howe may have changed, because at first, Eddie Howe said, I just want what's best for the player, I want the player to be happy, etc. And then suddenly it was like, you've got to earn the right to train with the first team, no players bigger than the club, etc. Can you understand why that relationship has changed over the last few days?
Yeah, the dynamic shifted, hasn't it? And it's been quite a tetchy sort of week, 10 days, 2 weeks or so since this initial interest from Liverpool was made public. And then, of course, we've had a different story, and the whole situation has gone in a different direction at every single stage over the last couple of weeks or so. And I should imagine for Eddie Howe, who's just trying to focus on building a winning team to compete in the Premier League and the Champions League, to have his star striker at the centre of what seems to be a tug of war and a lot of media speculation, it will be doing a lot of damage to what he wants to do and cultivate that culture and that spirit and that togetherness, which has been such a huge factor of Newcastle United's success since he went into the North East. You know, this is not what he wants at all. Eddie Howe historically has always wanted his transfer business done really early in the window so that he can spend a good 6 weeks working with the players, working with the new players so that they can understand and adapt to the systems and setup that he wants. So this is not ideal in so many situations. But like we've always been saying, and like Keith touched upon there, Alexander Isak will only leave Newcastle United if they have what they feel are suitable replacements in that department ready to go. You know, he will not get his wish unless Newcastle United are happy and satisfied they have the squad and the players that they deem to be good enough. And that's where the problem lies, because this is one sort of set of dominoes, but only one will fall when something else gets put in exactly the right place. And Newcastle United will not go into this season without strikers that they feel capable of competing. No. And that's the biggest problem that they have with letting Isak go, should they decide to let him go, is that they need to get replacements sorted out first.
Well, that's him. Yes. Benjamin Sesko behind us. Now, Newcastle, like Keith says, that's the only bid on the table right now.
Yeah.
Which part of you thinks, well, Newcastle are trying the hardest to get him, so he should go to Newcastle. But Newcastle went in for Hugo Ekitike and he went to Liverpool.
Yeah.
So how complicated is this, and how hard are Newcastle going to have to work to get this one done before he gets his head turned by anyone else?
Now, ultimately, I always think you can't convince a player to come if he doesn't want to come. You can sell him the dream, sell him the project, explain what you're going to do to him, how you're going to transform him as a player, turn him into a top-class Champions League striker. He scored 4 goals in the Champions League last season, but can he go and better that? Can he get to the latter stages? Is he going to win the silverware that perhaps he wants to do whilst he's at this football club? And that's part of the job that Eddie Howe and his backroom team have to do, and say, look, this is the next right step for you. But ultimately, if the player isn't on the same page and doesn't have that belief that this is potentially his next step, then you're trying to convince someone that doesn't want to be convinced. And ultimately, that's where Newcastle get to a point where they say, ultimately, we have to walk away here because this is not healthy for us. The player clearly doesn't want to come, so therefore, we need to move on to other targets. I think the thing about Benjamin Sesko is he's always had an interest in coming to the Premier League, and he's been open to potentially joining Newcastle United. We know that there has been that Manchester United shadow lurking in the background, and that, of course, has been appealing to him. But until they put the money on the table, he doesn't really have a decision. Newcastle fans will say, well, hang on, we got close with João Pedro, we got close with Dean Howson, we got close with Hugo Ekitike, but ultimately they chose to go in a different direction. So these things can change at the last minute. You mentioned at the top of the show, Chuba Akpom. Regardless if he's sat in that Ipswich Town dressing room, changing room, training ground, until it's physically signed, nothing is done. And this is very much the same situation. Newcastle United could agree a fee with RB Leipzig and they could say, we've agreed a fee, you're now free to travel to do your medical in the northeast with Newcastle United. He could fly over to the northeast and then get a phone call to say Manchester United have matched the fee and actually they're going to give you more money, and then he goes from Newcastle to Manchester. That's what's happening at the moment. It feels like there is a lot going on and a lot of moving parts, but like Keith rightly said, this is not going to go on much longer. Newcastle United won't allow this to go on much longer. They're going to want a decision so they can start to focus on exactly what they're doing, and if they do need to move on to other targets, then they'll have to do that.
Yeah, we are expecting movement in the next, well,
I think 24 hours, Keith.
Yeah, exactly. So stick with us for that. Now, if you're just joining us, it was a really busy start to the show. Let's recap some of the transfer updates that have come into us. Everton are reluctant to meet Southampton's £45 million plus valuation of Tyler Dibbling. Southampton have told Everton they want a guaranteed £45 million plus bonuses on top to sell him. Let's go to Chuba Akpom, because Birmingham City have submitted another bid for the Ajax striker. They're attempting to hijack his move to Ipswich Town. So understand Ajax are considering this new offer. The clubs have been in discussions over a permanent deal in the region of £6 million. But Akpom has completed his medical with Ipswich Town ahead of a loan move, and he is still in Ipswich. And finally, Sheffield United have accepted a significant bid for the transfer of defender Arnold Armadosic, the Bosnian international. It says here he leaves with immediate effect to join the Eredivisie club Feyenoord. Now, I must say that is quite confusing, because it says they've accepted a bid. It's also saying he's left. So let me just get a little bit more on that and find out whether he's actually gone yet or whether they've just accepted the bid. But just going back to Tyler Dibbling, Mark, £45 million plus valuation from Southampton. First of all, would you say that valuation is fair? And whether yes or no, can you understand why Everton wouldn't match it?
Ultimately, Southampton hold the cards and can sell the player for whatever they want to sell him for. There is, without question, a hugely talented young footballer in Tyler Dibbling. 19 years old, couple of goals in the Premier League last season, couple of goals in the FA Cup, but it's his potential and his ceiling that Everton are trying to buy into, because there's no question on his day he could be one of the most dangerous wingers in the Premier League, and he can get even better. Now, I think the offer that actually Everton have put on the table is a really fair offer for a player with his numbers. But Southampton maybe feel that he's worth a bit more, and they're just trying to squeeze out as much as possible. The fact that this is now in the media as well may instigate other clubs to say, well, actually, we're interested in Tyler Dibbling. We'd like to put together a proposal to try and sign him. Everton are frustrated so far with the business that's happened in the market. They haven't quite got the players that they've got through the door that they'd wanted. And they'd probably be saying to Tyler Dibbling, look, we'll put you in the Premier League shop window again. We're going to develop you as a player. David Moyes has developed these young players in the past. It's part of what he does as a coach. So therefore, come to us, give us 3 or 4 or 5 years, and we'll turn you into a superstar, and then you'll get your big move into a Champions League club. Everton may say, actually, this is a really exciting project at the moment. We'll take you into the Champions League as well. I think the thing for Tyler Dibbling is game time. He needs to play. He needs to be with a manager that understands him and that can get the very best out of him. There were times where Russell Martin didn't play him last season. There were times where Simon Rusk didn't play him last season. And there were times where Ivan Juric didn't play him last season and said quite publicly he didn't do the right defensive responsibilities for me to put him in the team week in, week out. So there's clearly elements of his game that he needs to develop, he needs to improve, but there's no question there is a hugely exciting player there that could be, you know, box office. If he can get it right, be happy on the pitch, be happy off the pitch, he could be a superstar. Hence why Everton have said, like, we'll get to 43 million with some, you know, that includes some add-ons. That's a decent price for a 19-year-old that scored 2 Premier League goals. Be fascinating to see what happens. But yeah, brilliant player. I'm intrigued as to how that one develops.
Right, to confirm, Arnold Armadosic has joined Feyenoord. It is a 4-year contract, and he has left Sheffield United for what they say is a significant fee. Right, on the way, we'll find out everything you need to know about Chelsea's latest signing, Joel Hatto, with a Dutch football journalist. Now, Chelsea's latest signing, Joel Hatto, says his new club is the perfect place for the next step of his career. But what can the Chelsea fans expect to see from the Dutch defender next season? Amsterdam-based football journalist Elko Born joins us now. Thanks for coming on, Elko. You've seen Hatto play for Ajax. What are his best attributes and what's his best position?
Yeah, he's played at different positions for Ajax in the past 2 years. He started out as a centre back, played very well there. Was very good at joining the midfield in the build-up phase of play. Very good at controlling the ball, giving the right pass forward at the right moment. But last season he was used as a left back more often. Mainly because of personnel issues at Ajax. They just really needed someone at left back. They played Hato there a couple of times. He did really, really well, actually. He's not your traditional left back that's good at running forward and going for the overlap. But he was really good at, again, tucking inside, joining the midfield during attacking phases, playing the ball forward. So he did a really good job at left back as well. Not as your traditional overlapping left back, but very good nonetheless. So I think he's able to play at both of these positions, in the centre of defence and at left back as well.
Yeah, just looking at the squad, there's 7 first-team centre-backs at Chelsea, so it might do him good to say that he prefers to play at left-back. You might get a bit more game time. But were you surprised that other Premier League clubs or other clubs around Europe weren't in for him?
On the one hand, I was surprised because I do think he was the most talented player for certain at Ajax last season. Probably even the best player in the squad last season. So usually when a player does really well for Ajax, even a young player, there'll be a lot of interest from clubs all around Europe. But Hato, in this case, he's still very, very young. He's only played in the first team at Ajax for 2 seasons, which is, even for Ajax standards, again, usually sell players when they're still quite young, but 2 seasons is just a very short amount of time. So in that regard, I was surprised that even though he's still so young and still so inexperienced, already a big Premier League team is going in for him. In some regard, that is quite surprising.
Chelsea, he could be joined by another Netherlands international in Xavi Simons at Chelsea. Would that be a good move for the player?
Yeah, I think for Siemens, it's quite different. He's more experienced than Hato. He played at PSV Eindhoven, had a really good season for them a couple of years ago, then made the move to Leipzig in Germany. So he's got some experience in the Bundesliga now as well. Obviously, he has Champions League experience as well. The Bundesliga is a tougher league than the Dutch Eredivisie, where Joral Hato only played. So, and Siemens as well, the Dutch international team. He has quite a few caps now, has an important role in that team. At the Euros, I think he showed that he's at the level to really compete internationally. So for Simons, I think he is very much ready for the next step in his career. And I think potentially Chelsea, with where obviously a lot of young players come together nowadays, that could be a good move for him, I think.
Another Premier League club in Sunderland have made 8 signings this summer, and the latest being a Dutch goalkeeper, Robin Roofs from NEC Nijmegen, for £11.5 million. Tell us about what kind of goalkeeper he is.
Yeah, he's a very, very talented goalkeeper. Still very young. I think he's 22 years old right now. Did very well last season in the Eredivisie. Showed amazing athletic capabilities. Really tall, really strong, really commanding. Really good at challenging for crosses as well. Catching the ball. Very strong, seems very confident, which really helps his defenders in front of him as well. So for such a young goalkeeper, he just looked so impressive last season. But again, he's relatively unproven. He did well in the Dutch Eredivisie. Obviously, playing in England will be a huge step up for him. So he's shown a lot of promise. I think he could be a great signing, but we'll have to see how he does in the Premier League.
Yeah, a very interesting potential transfer is going on in the Championship as well, because Birmingham and Ipswich are both trying to get Chuba Akpom from Ajax. Now, he's done very well in the Championship in the past, but what was he like in the Eredivisie?
Yeah, he did relatively well for Ajax. He played there for 2 seasons. Ajax, I think under normal circumstances, Ajax would have liked to keep him. He played in a couple of different positions, mainly obviously as a striker, but on the left wing as well, where they needed a player to do a job, and he did a pretty good job. Very disciplined player, very good at just working hard for the team, doing what he's asked to do. And under normal circumstances, I think he could have been a great addition to the Ajax squad. But right now, they need money, Ajax. Last season, they were not in the Champions League, and Ajax is very much dependent on money income from the Champions League. So his wages are relatively high for Ajax standards, who are used to paying relatively low wages for younger players. So it just seems like they are not able to keep him for much longer. He's did relatively well. 2 years ago, Ajax signed a lot of new players when they had a new coach and a new technical director as well. A lot of those players were not up to Ajax standards, had to leave after 1 or 2 years. And Akpom is one of those few players who really showed his worth to the team, even though he couldn't quite become that first striker in the team in the starting 11. But again, he really showed his worth at different times when the team really needed him. Good player, did relatively well at Ajax. Well, again, we'll have to see how he does when he makes his move. But he has shown for Ajax a lot of promise, I think.
Elko, great to speak to you. Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.
We've got loads on the way. We're getting Everton fans' reactions to their attempts to bring in new players. Plus, we'll have more from Chelsea. Everton have made 4 signings this summer and are trying to add more new faces. Let's speak live to Peter McParland from Toffee TV. Right, let's start with Tyler Dibbling. The news this hour is that Everton are reluctant to meet Southampton's £45 million plus valuation of Dibbling. Their third bid of a guaranteed £35 million plus £8 million in add-ons already been rejected. What would you like to see happen now, Peter?
I think for Everton, probably walk away at the moment and look for other targets and maybe come back to the table when Southampton are maybe just a couple of weeks into their season. I think once teams go into the Championship and they actually start the seasons, I think you normally see deals get done a little bit quicker. Listen, Southampton can ask what they want for the player. He's a very exciting young talent, but obviously at the moment Everton aren't willing to go that high, and it seems, certainly for the add-ons as well, £50 million would seem to be an incredible amount for such a young player.
The £29 million fee has been agreed, though, for Keenan Dewsbury-Hall from Chelsea. What do you think of that signing?
Yeah, that's a really good, solid signing. I think a player, 26, turning 27 in September. Obviously, good experience at Leicester. Got that big move to Chelsea, and obviously with the turnover at Chelsea, having so many players and almost gone up, they've gone up another level. And I think he is the right profile of player. Very energetic midfielder. Good balance on left-footed player. So I think that's a really solid sign, and Everton obviously need numbers as quick as possible. David Moyes has stressed that over the last week in America. So it's a sensible move, and I think he's an exciting player.
Yeah, he talked about central midfielders and wingers in particular, and we've just talked about a winger and a central midfielder. Here's another central midfielder in Leicester's Wilfred Ndidi. We believe the relegation release clause is £9 million. What do you think of him? He's certainly got the experience as well.
Yeah, he's obviously got the experience. Everton are crying out for a number 6. Not sure whether he is the right fit to come into Everton. I think he's been... he's been at Leicester for a while now, and I think in his early days at Leicester he really stood out, but I think the last couple of seasons he's just dropped off a little bit, and obviously part of a squad that's been relegated. Obviously, if it's the right price, and maybe if it's a little bit later on in the window, that might be someone Everton look at. But just for right now, I think Evertonians would be looking for maybe younger targets, someone with a little bit more exciting, someone who can fill that role for years to come. And certainly with Idrissa Gana Gueye being obviously coming to the end of his career in age-wise, doesn't seem to be coming to the end of it on the pitch, but certainly him going to the AFCON as well will cause a problem for Everton come December. So I think Evertonians are looking for a younger player to fill that role.
Yeah, and in terms of numbers, David Moyes has said another 5 or 6 players. When Mark and I were looking through your squad, we agreed with him. Do you think that's about right? And where else do you need to strengthen?
Yeah, it's absolutely right. I've just come back from America. I've just stepped off a plane. Still on Atlanta time. So I was at all the press conferences in America and at all of the events that David Moyes spoke at. And he was quite adamant about wanting 9 or 10 players for the entire summer. Obviously, he's already brought some of those players in. Right midfield is the one that jumps out straight away. Everton don't have any right wingers. It's a position that Everton have needed to fill for the last few years. Nonto, obviously, the last couple of summers has been mentioned, but that's a position we don't have any players. We can put players in, they can fill in, but there is a massive gap there. And David Moyes said over the weekend that is a massive priority. So we do need that position filled. I think right back as well is a really important position as well. Nathan Patterson just hasn't cut it in the pre-season games so far and didn't at the end of last season. Seamus Coleman, obviously, is coming to the end of his career. And Jake O'Brien's been filling in there really well. But I think we'd like to see a real right back, an established right back who can, get forward and play like a modern right back does right now. That's not quite what Jake O'Brien's all about, although he has filled that role really well.
Have you got someone in mind, whether you've been linked with or not, who would be a dream signing for you this summer? A realistic dream signing?
It's hard to say, isn't it? Because when you're talking about needing another 5 or 6, you don't know what the money situation is. Obviously, Everton have had problems in the last few years with PSR. They don't seem to be there this summer as such because of the new stadium and the new owners. So I don't know. I don't know about a dream signing as such. I'd just like to see Everton get the numbers in more than anything else, because I think it is that's the depth of squad that's certainly let us down in the pre-season so far. I know it is only pre-season, but when you're trying to get players ready and players getting used to the squad and coming in and bonding with the other players, you want them in, and David Moyes just spoke about that as well. So I'm not sure about a dream sign. I'd love to see someone just come from nowhere. I think there's a lot of names being spoken about so far. I'd like to see just a player come from nowhere, never and try and get over the line. They haven't quite been able to do that so far, but I think it is important. And I think from the outside it would seem, David Moyes talking about 9 or 10 players would seem a little bit pie in the sky, but it really is what Everton needs with so many players leaving the club this summer and obviously where we've been in the last couple of years with squad depth. So if we can get the players in, whoever they are, if they are the players David Moyes wants, then I'll be happy with that.
Well, I'm very much looking forward to going to your new stadium this season as well. Peter, great to speak to you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Right, let's get to Chelsea now. They are spending money again, but they are raising funds by selling players as well. But in terms of incomings, Mark, we talked this morning about Xavi Simons and Alejandro Garnacho. How likely are those 2 deals looking right now?
Well, they're 2 deals that Chelsea would like to try and make happen where possible, and it certainly feels like the movement is towards getting both of those deals over the line. The Xavi Simons situation, 22 years old, 2 years left on his current contract at the moment. We know that Chelsea have held talks with RB Leipzig over a possible deal. This is a superstar really in the making. We've been speaking about him for a number of years. He seems to be one of those players that's been Instagram famous since he was about 16 because of how good he was as a youngster. Obviously came through PSG's system when he was a kid, went to PSV. He wasn't in the squad at the weekend for RB Leipzig's game against Atalanta, so that would suggest something is possibly bubbling along. We know the talks continue. The key thing on this one is going to be Chelsea finding the right fee that they're comfortable paying for the player. But yeah, definite interest there. The other one they like, and you mentioned Alejandro Garnacho, again, fits the profile of what Chelsea are trying to do at the moment with their recruitment. It's young players between the age of sort of 18, 22, 23, those players that they see good value in, they see potentially a route to the first team, or, as they've also been doing this summer, players that they buy, maybe have for a year or 2, doesn't quite work out, but they sell on and make more money. We know that there has been talks with Manchester United about Alejandro Garnacho. Again, this is going to be key, is how much do Manchester United want and what are Chelsea willing to pay. He was, I guess, a key part of Manchester United last season, despite the fractious relationship that he perhaps has with Ruben Amorim. He was involved in 36 Premier League games, started 23, so a big player. So they're going to be expecting big funds for him. Let's wait and see how both develop.
Nicholas Jackson is wanted by a number of clubs. Could you see him going before deadline day?
It certainly feels like that's the direction of travel for this one. We know that they've signed João Pedro, has been impressive over the course of pre-season, and particularly in the Club World Cup. We've also seen Liam Delap go into Stamford Bridge as well. He's another young player that will be looking to build upon the success he had with Ipswich in the Premier League. So therefore, Nicholas Jackson's game time may be limited this season. And when you look at what they paid for him, around £35 million or so, which includes some add-ons, and they're talking about fees of between 80 and 100 million for Nicholas Jackson, there may be a train of thought, well, actually, this represents good business for Chelsea. Now, the one thing we can say about them is they have been financially very prudent, and with regards to their sales, they've generated and recycled a lot of money to come back into the football club. So they are making money on all these player sales. Yes, they're buying a lot of players, but when they're selling them, they're getting good market value as well. So that may be one of those situations where if someone can put the right type of money on the table, Nicholas Jackson, who still has 8 years left on his contract, could be leaving Chelsea at some stage this summer. Certainly, I can't see him being at the Bridge for the campaign, maybe possibly alone, but it just depends if someone can find that magic number that Chelsea say yes to.
Well, another Chelsea player that could be on the move is Raheem Sterling. This is what Jay Bothroyd had to say on his future on Good Morning Sports Fans.
Some players there, especially someone like Sterling, that's on huge money. And it's like, Sterling's coming towards the end of his career. He might be looking at it saying, yes, I want to play, but I don't want to take a huge pay cut at the same time. So I feel like with someone like Sterling, it's more difficult to get rid of him. Yes, there's been talks that he might be going to Napoli, but ultimately he's on a big wage, and so are some of them other Chelsea players. So yes, as much as they have assets they can sell, it's that player that's going to the next club that wants to be paid at least the same or more.
And who else could be on their way out of Chelsea?
Yeah, other players to keep an eye on. Carney Chukwuemeka, Sky in Germany, reporting that Borussia Dortmund are currently in discussions with Chelsea over a potential deal. He was on loan there last season. We know that Keenan Dewsbury-Hall is getting close to his move to Everton. That's £29 million. We're expecting the medical in the next 24 hours. Another player leaving the Bridge as well, Armando Broja, Burnley, in advanced talks with Chelsea over a potential deal. And they essentially have an agreement in principle over this potential move. We know that Broja's keen. 5-year deal on the table for him, and it's just about the structure of the payment. Someone that's suffered with injuries recently, but on his day could be a really decent striker. So yeah, a number of outs still happening. Nicholas Jackson, the one to keep an eye on, I think.
Right, still so much to come. We're going to have the latest from Brentford, Fulham, Wolves. That's all on the way and more. Right, we promised to talk about Brentford. There's been a lot of changes this summer there. But Mark, first of all, bring us the latest on Johan Wissa.
Yeah, this is another saga, another one where we're expecting developments over the course of the next 24 hours or so. He's a player that's clearly of interest to Newcastle. And off the back of what was a really successful campaign in the Premier League last year, that brilliant partnership he had with Brian Mbeumo, you can see why there are sides that are interested in signing him. He's into the last year of his Brentford contract, but the club do hold another year option. So essentially he's got a 2-year deal. He wasn't involved in the weekend, came back from their pre-season tour of Portugal and has said to the club, look, I'd really want to explore this opportunity to join a new club, play Champions League football and maybe earn a bit more money than I'm currently doing so. So please, can you allow me to leave? Now, there was talks of a gentleman's agreement made last year, but one source has said there was no agreement in place. We know that Newcastle have had a couple of offers rejected, the last being a total of around £35 million. He's 29 years old. He's getting to the latter stages of his contract and perhaps his career, and therefore he's saying, look, this is my chance to go and do something a bit different and play for a different club. Please, can you let me explore it? Now, today's significant because, of course, Brentford are returning to pre-season training from being abroad today. Will he be involved in the squad? Will he play with the first team, or will he be doing his own training routine? Be interesting to see what happens there and how that one develops. Brentford's stance is, look, you're not for sale. You're a key player for us. You're an important player for us. We see you as a big part of our squad for next season, so we don't want to let you go. We've already lost a lot of players, so therefore we need you to commit to us and stay and give us everything you can for another season. Be interesting to see what happens. Of course, we know that Benjamin Sesko to Newcastle is the other one that potentially could affect this, but Newcastle really are in the market for two strikers, having lost Callum Wilson and potentially may lose Alexander Isak. So therefore, that's where Wissa comes into play here.
And just remind everybody of the amount of not just players but staff that Brentford have lost this summer.
Yeah, it's quite astonishing, really, at how much they've been decimated in one way. The one thing I will say, though, Brentford are a very, very astute club that are run very well by Matthew Benham. They have good people that operate on the football side, and they use a data model to recruit players, coaches and staff. So they would have had eventualities for every single departure. So whilst there may be a few more than they anticipated, it certainly won't be surprising them or worrying them, because they do have this model that they rely on and has been exceptional over the course of the last few years. Thomas Frank, losing him was a big blow, but of course losing a number of his backroom team as well will be a big loss. The fact they've lost Flecken, the goalkeeper, Brian Mbeumo, who's been outstanding for them for a number of years, and two or three other players that have also departed the club. But they are designed for this kind of eventuality. That is what a data model is. That is what this is built for. And they'll feel that they can cope with these changes, and they'll be able to target the right players to come in and still keep Brentford where they want to be. And that's a mid-table Premier League side that can maybe punch into the top 10.
Yeah, Norgard to Arsenal and Ben Mee as well, of course, who was released. Let's just move on to Fulham, because their striker Rodrigo Muniz is one of the strikers at Atalanta are keen on signing this summer. That's according to Sky in Italy. And Fulham have been brilliant the last few seasons, haven't they, Mark? Is Rodrigo Muniz one of the key players that they would want to keep?
Yeah, and I don't think they'd want to lose someone that's brought the level of goals he has over the last couple of years. We know that he has been linked with Premier League sides in the past as well. And if he continues to score goals, there is going to be that noise around him. Fulham are one of those sides that have actually been quite quiet so far in the transfer window. Maybe that will be a source of frustration for Marco Silva, because he'll want to add and build upon all of their successes last season. Right up until the end of the campaign, we were talking about Fulham getting into Europe. That's how good they were last season, but they need to keep the players and build on it, and that's where I think Marco Silva will be slightly frustrated that they haven't done more work so far.
Quickly rattle for you a couple more lines. Burnley wanting Martin Dubravka. We know why, of course, as they lost James Trafford.
James Trafford gone, Martin Dubravka. I understand that was a part of the conversation when Newcastle were in talks with Burnley, was we want James Trafford, okay, we want Dubravka. I think Dubravka feels like his best days at Newcastle are behind him now. He's been sensational over the years, but maybe looking for a new opportunity. So that's one to keep an eye on. And of course, as well, Armando Broja, another player we've already mentioned, potentially heading to Burnley as well.
There is a line from the last couple of hours as well from Wolves, and Borussia Dortmund are in talks with Wolves to sign striker Fabio Silva. Now, Sky in Germany are reporting that Dortmund want to pay 20 million euros, which is about just under £17.5 million, and we understand that it will take more to get the player. He's got 1 year left on his Wolves contract. Let's just end the show with one final word on our top story of Benjamin Sesko. Why is he so in demand, Mark?
Because he's probably the closest thing to Alexander Isak, and he has that same type of potential. He's 6'5", tall, lean, he's a mobile athlete. His biggest asset is his technique. He actually started life as a winger when he was at RB Salzburg and Liefering as well. So he's played out wide, so he brings that versatility. He's not a predator like Alexander Isak in around the box, but he's someone that has huge potential, a massive ceiling. Bring in Eddie Howe to that mix. Just as he did with Isak, he could develop him into a sensational striker.
World class from you today, Mark. Good Morning Transfers is back 9 a.m. tomorrow. Sam Saunders will be with us. Transfer Talk is back from midday. And remember, the Transfer Show is at 5 o'clock and 7 p.m. tonight. On the way next, more transfer news, especially on Sesko and Isak.